Hey Joyriders, welcome back to the channel. You're probably wondering why I have the red glasses on. Well, today is all about turning on your root chakra. Red supposedly helps turn on your root chakra, but you know what? This isn't about your regular root chakra. This is about your MTB root chakra. Problem is, we don't have any roots in Colorado to speak of, so we sent McCormack all the way to Juno, Alaska to turn on his root chakra and see if we can turn yours on too, so stay tuned.
What's up, Lee?
Hey, Lars. Hey, Joyriders.
I'm Lars. I own Trailhead Cyclery in Cupertino.
We're up here in Juno, Alaska, man. The riding style here is very different from what I have in Colorado and from what Lars rides in San Jose, California. The biggest difference is roots, man. And you Joyriders have been asking us about roots, so here we are on assignment. I'm a little bit nervous about the root thing, man, because I haven't ridden many of them. When I was racing downhill and doing well on the West Coast, one year we followed the circuit to the East Coast. West Virginia, rainstorm, wet roots, I was out of my element. I practiced, I did my stuff. I was so terrified by the conditions that I did not do the race.
What?
I know, and I was bummed because I watched the race, and guess what? Everybody looked terrible. I have to redeem myself. Here we are, right? We're on this beautiful trail. Like the locals tell us this is the gnarliest root trail in town. It is like playing extemporaneous music. Like we all know the chord progressions. We know the basic rules of the music, which in our world are pretty simple. You have pedaling, braking, turning, and row anti-row / pumping. That's all we do. So what are you doing for bike setup?
I'll be honest with you. This is my setup from the Bay Area. Eliminator in the rear, which is that new T7 rubber, to 2.3 tubeless, of course. The rim's 30 mils wide, so it's got a nice sidewall. I like this one in the back because it actually kind of rolls a little faster than my front tire. The Butcher is also a 2.3 with a little stickier T9 rubber.
Yeah.
I love this tire back home, man. Riding Santa Cruz mountains, it's just super predictable, very grippy.
And do you think it's going to be better to have a big tire that floats on roots or like a narrower tire that like bites more?
This is such an interesting question because my initial thought is you want a big old tire, right, with lots of working edges, and you know, if one working edge slips on the root, there's another working edge right behind it. But skinnier tire tends to deliver a little bit more pressure and prominent like grip on the lugs that you have. I don't know, man. I'm really excited to hear what everyone else thinks in the comments, but this tire setup I think is going to work pretty good.
What about your tire pressure compared to normal?
You know, I'm kind of going for my happy medium, which is 22 up front, 24 in the back. At lower speeds, that lower pressure is going to allow the tires to really wrap around the roots and get a few more working edges engaged.
I have a sense there's gonna be a lot of roots and we're not gonna see all of them. So I'm running my normal pressure, which for me is 21 rear, 17 front, for me.
21-17. Wow, that's significantly lower than me.
Yeah, but I need it for the shoulders, so it's just how I roll.
Oh, a little bit more comfort coming through the tire pressure.
What about suspension? Is it firm or is it open?
Oh man, so my suspension, if anything, is a little on the firmer side spring rate wise, but pretty open compression wise.
So it'll conform to the roots, hopefully?
Yeah, it's a progressive coil, so it's a little soft at the beginning, but it gets really firm, so I can derive a lot of power into the rear wheel. The suspension up front is kind of on the firm side as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be good for being able to push and make decisive moves. It's not necessarily different than what I normally run back in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
So you're going to spin a really easy gear, lug a gnarly gear?
No, I'll probably change my seat height more than I shift my gears. Just a moderate gear, something that's not too low so that each effort drives a lot of pressure into the tire and I can cover a little bit more ground. I don't want to generate a lot of torque because I think that'll make the tire slip.
Right. So yeah, the bigger gear will kind of soften your impulse power, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about like trying to get traction on like a really loose, gravelly climb. Like you want a bigger gear that you can kind of slowly turn over.
Makes sense.
And not a short, jerky, high torque pedal stroke.
How's your rad on this bike? How does it fit you?
It fits me. It's a size Lars. If you measured from my knuckles to the dirt, that's basically exactly that. I can adapt to the trail that I'm on, and this is really different stuff, but I'm able to adapt to it because the bike feels like an extension of me.
You just went up a crazy crooked route, and your back tire did not track. It just like slid to the side.
It felt pretty good, and I had a little sense that maybe this angled route was gonna take my rear tire out, but I gave it as much pressure as I could give at the moment, and then it spun.
But you made it pretty seamless. You were really balanced.
Well, I was centered on my cranks, and I wasn't in the lowest possible gear either, so my crank didn't just zip to 0. I had a little bit of room to pedal through it, and then thankfully the tire hooked up, and I still had myself centered on the cranks. The bike went a little crooked for a moment, right? But
yeah.
Didn't matter. I was ready for, the bike doing weird things, because, yeah, it's better to stay loose.
When we need traction, we don't rely on some random coefficient of friction between your T9 rubber and a mossy root.
I bring traction wherever I go by leveraging the rear tire into the ground. I pull back on the bars pretty darn hard as I'm pushing down on the pedals pretty darn hard. And this lever is pretty amazing. My rad is twice as long as this chainstay. So when I'm pulling back on the bars and driving, it's like doubling my leverage ratio, right? It's a 2 to 1. I'm just, brah. You can bring that wherever you go. Look at these things. It's like a tangled root mass.
I see like sliding tires, like taking away this, this surface here has traction, a lot of traction.
Yep.
This surface is very, very slick. And of course, the more tires that have been sliding across this, the slicker it's gonna get. Rock tends to be polite in that it lines up straight, but this is not polite.
Lee, you come into this thing dead blind. You know we're in a rooted trail, but you haven't seen this thing before, and then all of a sudden, well, bam, here we are. What do you do?
So this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm gonna see it. Vision's incredibly important because your eyes are pretty much part of your brain. So if I allow my eyes to lock on these shapes, it's gonna turn on my frontal cortex, my critical brain.
It's gonna slow you down, man.
It's gonna slow me down. I won't be able to do it. So I'm gonna like somewhat consciously manage these two shapes and then let the bike do the details. What I see here is a pull, a row over this shape.
Yeah, it's like a little roller.
It's a roller. But check this out. There's a hole here that was designed specifically to capture my front wheel. Yours too. If I go passive, the front wheel's gonna hit and go like that, and I will unclip and stand here and feel disappointed in myself. I'm looking through that section we talked about, through the S turn, like 2-3 turns ahead. Way out there, as far as you can see. Here we go. Whew, nervous is good.
Here we go. Those roots don't have a chance.
They have no chance.
Oh, what? Yeah, the bar's been set. You just came through here and made these roots look like a regular piece of gravel road.
We have very different riding styles.
True.
But I consider our levels to be very, very, very comparable. You're actually a little bit more like Alex in terms of riding style. You're more like playful.
I'm looking at this little V right here. That just looks like such a rad place to get my tires through. Cause like,
oh my God.
If I slip this way or I slip that way, it's like, boom, I'm in the middle.
Most of us are afraid of doing big, scary things like that V.
Yeah.
So you can see the median line is down here where it's not as big and scary. But is it almost always better to do a big thing than a lot of little things?
I like to do the one big thing and just get it over with.
If you go through a V, where is your tire going to slip to?
In the middle.
It's going to stay there.
Yeah.
So we're actually hunting V's. You're a V hunter.
I had no idea.
Oh, the V. How'd it feel?
Kind of chaotic. All I could hear were my tires going because I wasn't going very fast. So it wasn't like a it was just like
we almost never get this close to the ground for Joy a Bike. So what's all going on here, man?
You got a main root right here.
Yeah.
And then you got this other root laying on top of it. Then you have another V right here. This is like a little offshoot from this root, which is creating another V right here. So you got V for V1, V2,
root V3. And actually there's another root right in front of your foot.
Right here, there's another one.
So if you actually hunt the V's, maybe that's a good way to go. Yeah, let's go bee hunting.
High, low, high, low.
So it's like somebody tried to build a pump track, but they just weren't very precise.
There's a couple of ways to get through here. It looks like maybe some people are going away from all these roots and they're going all the way down until where the roots are in the dirt.
Yes.
And then they're somehow making this turn and then they're getting up and over this shape, or maybe even going up and around here and letting the rear wheel, right?
So you can have like a really complicated slalom or a straight line. We have the fitness that we have the strength we have the skills that we have. That's not gonna change dramatically now. But what we can really control is our mindset and our social support, which we're huge on here, and where we look and how we choose line. And how we look and how we think are very, very closely tied together. So we wanna think and look in a broad, soft way. And then we want to, as much as we can, take simpler, somewhat more audacious lines. And so this is a classic example where people are trying to avoid big roots and they're making it harder on themselves. But something else I'm noticing is that the roots tend to be bigger and simpler closer to the trees.
Yeah.
A lot of the sheep lines are trying to avoid roots. So they're going around the tree, which makes it more complicated because you're turning more, but they're also going from like one big thing into a more complicated braid. Mm-hmm. And I think for us at our level, we're just better off handling a big thing than dealing with the randomness.
Yeah, choke up on it, right?
Choke up on the tree, right. We ride Rocky Ridge all the time in Santa Teresa, and it has a lot of this, but made of rock. How does the technique change between San Jose, California, 100 degrees, rock, and this?
It's the same.
What?
We are doing the same shape. Come around a corner, there's a big old ledge you gotta get over, and there's a big pull back, and I'm driving my rear tire into the ground, pulling my front wheel up over the shape, and then I'm pushing my bike over the root, anti-row, and I'm letting my rear wheel stay light so that when it hits this root, it doesn't come to a dead stop.
He's engaging his core. He's not sitting. There it is. Closer to the tree, on the high side of the trail, is a bigger, simpler shape.
That tree on the left, right?
On rider's left.
Oh, yeah.
To go around it means you're making a somewhat off-camber, somewhat braided turn with like a stump. Just know, coming through here sight unseen, that the trail is gonna curve to the right. Two coinciding policies that are working with each other. Policy A is bigger, simpler shapes. Policy B is whenever we line up for a corner, especially one we've never seen before, we line up as wide as we can. We take like a late apex line. Instead of following the sheep line around, I'm gonna go straight. And of course, there's some really nice pump right here, and there's a lot of pump here. And now we have some speed, right?
Yeah, I see that.
If you're passive, you're gonna go dumble, 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 trouble, trouble, and probably get hung up here. And so as we know, like we can pedal over that. You can aim for, there's a V. Check it out, there's a V.
I love
You can
Vs.
pedal right up that V. What's the best way to pedal over a wet, crooked root? Don't.
Oh yes, skip
Carry
it.
speed and just pump
Skip
over
it.
it. That's even better. The more speed I carry through all of this, the less pedaling I need to do here. When I'm in this mode of like, I'm afraid of roots, I don't know what to do, and I'm looking for terrifying roots to avoid, it doesn't put me in a very good mindset. It closes my mind down. But when I come through these sections going, dude, I'm awesome, I'm gonna carry a little bit of speed, I'm gonna pump everything, then instead of looking for terrible things I'm afraid of, I'm looking for wonderful things that I can use. The more pump you get here, the more speed you're gonna carry through here, and the less pedaling you need to do on these other wet roots. And this applies in both directions. Push, pull, done. I see some really crooked roots.
Tell you what I see. I see inside line that kind of chunks some of it together into a couple of shapes instead of a bunch of smaller rooty things on the outside. So I think my natural instinct would just be to choke up on the inside tree.
Lars is back there. He's not ridden this yet. By the tree is a big shape that can be pumped. Out farther away, things get a little bit more confusing. So let's see how he goes. Oh my gosh. Another conundrum. The main line, of course, goes around, and it looks like a really pretty line. But then, of course, there's what appears to be the original trail goes through here. And coming out of the puddle, we have like a significant ledge with our favorite thing in the world. This is a self-lubricating root system fed by this pond right here.
I'm gonna come in with a little bit of momentum if I can, but I'll tell you what, I'm gonna put a lot of weight into my rear tire to try to get some traction on those roots climbing out the other side.
Right.
Normally, maybe I wouldn't want to put as much weight into the back wheel to stall the bike out, but I'm worried about the rear tires slipping on those roots.
Right.
So I think I'm just going to drive that rear tire in there and stay on the throttle.
What? If you had speed, you would pump the whole thing, you wouldn't pedal at all. If it was dry and had traction, you would spin like a normal gear. But since you feel like you need more traction, you're gonna consciously drive into that root, which is gonna slow the bike down. But you're gonna do that on purpose just to make sure you're engaged with it. This will be Lars's third time through here. It's blowing my mind because it's getting wetter and muddier and grosser. And like he's actually creating traction on that surface. There. Wow. That was killer, man. So it's like playing jazz in a way. It's like we know the chords, row, anti-row, edge, pressure, the rules of engagement, and then this is all extemporaneous. It's like we're just like we got Louis Armstrong on his horn and we're just trying to adapt to what he's doing and follow along, you know what I mean?
Here we are with Lee. He's gonna roll and pump the heck out of this depression.
I like the idea of pumping the hell of our depression. I find that to be very good for my life. Got depression? Pump it, bro.
Pump it.
Hey Lars.
Hey Lee.
When you're going down a descent that's rooty and maybe with wet roots, how much braking is the best kind of braking?
I think no braking is perfect. If I have to slow down, ideally rear brake. Because front brake and front tire on roots, dicey. I let it roll. I mean, if ideally I can find a couple of spots where I can brake, maybe even with both front and rear brake together, if there's like just a matted tangle of roots, and if you slip around a little bit, it's not a big deal because they're going in every which direction. And then there's like more decisive roots, let go of the brakes for that section.
So you brake heavy where you can.
Yep.
And then when you're on like the bigger root shapes, you're light / coasting. And if you want to control your speed,
Parachute.
in the form of like just dragging your rear brake.
Little bit of a rear brake. Nothing too harsh, just a little bit of a speed check.
Hey buddy. So again, you're gonna get a lot of these decision points on your trail rides and in your life. There's like big, somewhat intimidating thing that requires an emphatic aggression, and the less risky, more circuitous, more complicated, less effective way. And when we can, we're gonna choose the straight line, the red pill. Oh, dude.
Let your mind sort of soften a little bit and try not to hyper focus on any one thing, and just look for those exits and then let the peripheral handle all those little details. It's really, really quite something.
It's pretty rad. Me today here with you versus me alone on the circuit going to that rainy race in West Virginia. It's a completely different sport. Back when I was out there doing my thing as trying to be a racer guy, like I didn't understand shapes. And guess what? Shapes are shapes. You have pedaling, braking, turning, and row anti-row / pumping. That's all we do. And everything that we accomplish on the bike is a combination from those 4 primary colors. And every single thing that we took on today. I hate the word attempted. It was awesome, man. I'm really excited to start to like open up my mind and my heart to all the possibilities on the bike and off, of course, you know, and just ride with this like soft mind, soft eyes, and see where it takes us. And now we're about to run north through this park. There's a glacial lake that I want you to see, man.
Is that on this trail?
It's up there.
Oh yeah.
There might be some roots between here and there. And I'm actually like, I'm not nervous. Like I want to encounter some crazy things we've never seen before and just do it on the fly. I think it's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Nama Stoke.